Hi guys, Matt Lipke here with Through Gamer Goggles, and we are at the Paizo booth, and today I have James Case, lead designer, correct?
Lead developer on the Rules and Lore team.
Rules and Lore team. And we're going to talk about a lot of cool stuff. I have to clarify one thing real quick. You sent out an email about embargo.
You're all good.
We're all good, okay. Okay, so I have lots of questions about a lot of different things.
There we go.
Not so much the Player Core 2, which is what I planned on chatting about.
Okay.
But let's start with the next release, which is it War?
We have War of Immortals coming out.
It is the War of Immortals is next.
Coming out just in a couple months from now, yeah.
Well, wait, but there's also the one about Lost Omens book, the deities.
Yeah, we also have, so we have a whole lot of books coming out on the Rules and Lore team. We have, in no particular order, we have coming out the Lost Omens Tianxia character guide. So this is the second part of our big dive into Asian fantasy. So this is the one, 6 new ancestries, a lot of archetypes, that kind of magic items inspired by Asian fantasy. We have Lost Omens Divine Mysteries, which will have the kind of breakdown of what's happening with the death of the god Gorum. And then we have the War of Immortals, which will really dive into mythic power, those kind of quests. 2 new classes, the Animist and Exemplar. It's going to be a lot.
I've got questions there. So I don't have a lot of questions about the character guide that's coming out because I haven't done a lot of research on it yet, and I just purchased my copy of the campaign setting.
Okay.
So that's a little bit out there. But the divine inspirations that you guys have had in the past, I've always been a fan of how you've taken things like faith and made it like it belongs to every character.
Yeah.
Do we see that same kind of influence in the next series?
Yeah, you'll see a really deep look into all of our deities and sort of their relationships with each other. You know, we have a big sort of chart of who's at war with who's allied, who's partners, who's in relationships, that sort of thing, as well as the ways in which your character's faith can sort of be expressed. You know, Galarian is a setting where the deities, they are real. They objectively exist. They have shaped the setting. They don't always intercede in mortal affairs all the time because that'd be kind of a mess, but when they do, you know, but when they do, it really does leave a mark on the setting. So you'll see a lot of ways in which your character can interface with things, everywhere from, you know, being followers of deities to new pantheons for what happens when you worship specific, you know, groupings of deities, such as the Radiant Prism, our combination of Shelyn, Sarenrae, and Desna, to just more things that are more philosophies, you know, not backed by faith towards a specific deity per se, but, you know, these sort of more looks upon, you know, how you philosophically look at the world. It's really quite broad.
Are we going to introduce any kind of like new mechanics, like a stepping stone that goes into something that's going to be further along?
We have sort of themes of the divine. This is kind of our big divine year in a lot of ways, and that can be anything from, you know, we're looking at, this is where you'll see a lot of the remastered domains, really relevant to clerics, other characters that use divine magic. We also have some character options that reflect slightly different ways to be a divine character, and then of course War of Immortals will look at what it looks like to seize divine power in your own hands. We have new classes like the Animist, which bonds with all numbers of sort of lesser apparitions, that sort of to channel their power through them. And you have the Exemplar, which is what happens when a mortal grabs a spark of divine power and becomes a very sort of demigod-flavored heroic warrior, that kind of thing.
Okay. So with the Mythic rules, I played first edition. How are they going to be different?
Yeah. So one of the really big focuses on Mythic in this setting is that Mythic is not just everybody has, you know, a plus 10 to 20 to everything. Mythic is really a different way of telling a story. It's a story where, you know, heroes can do things like you can just grab a river with your hands and wrestle it, or you can glimpse things that are unseen. You know, these sort of like larger than life things that you might see in folk tales, in global mythology, and fables, and that sort of thing. So you will see a lot of examples of mythic destinies that characters walk, that sort of lead them down paths. You have you have a mythic resource that you can spend to enact these really powerful deeds, and you'll also see a lot of mythic archetypes which start after level 10 and they culminate in some form of immortality. And for some people that's a literal immortality, and for some that is your myth is so large that, you know, even when people think it's over, in the time of need you might come back. So you'll see a lot of takes on what this means.
So if I remember correctly, mythic creatures could only be killed by somebody who had the mythic trait in Pathfinder first edition. Is it going to be similar to that in second?
Mythic creatures are, they're not necessarily, they are stronger, but beyond that, they also have more of a weight in the setting. To defeat them might require some sort of special quest. They really should be the focus of things. And War of Immortals will have a number of Mythic creatures, and some are not over 20th level. Some are lower level, and they might be Mythic not because they're incredibly powerful, but because they are capable of crafting the most beautiful musical instrument. And that might be a thing that, causes a lot of people to want that instrument. It might cause a lot of strife. That instrument might be so beautiful it starts to affect the surrounding reality. You can face one of these Mythic creatures maybe without Mythic power. It might be difficult, but it's not impossible. But it is really about that sort of larger than life sort of story hook, as you will.
Okay, so with everything you've been doing, what has been your favorite part about bringing all of this stuff to fruition? Anything from the remaster to War of Immortals, and even maybe secrets you're hiding.
I think that the remaster has really given us an opportunity to really go in any direction. You see this in things like our Monster Core even. We've done a lot of refreshes on things like dragons, where instead of having dragons simply based on elements or that sort of thing, we have things like, what about an adamantine dragon? It's a dragon made out of an indestructible metal. It doesn't fly very well, it burrows very well, it can jump out of the ground. We also have things like monsters where we've gone back and we've really looked into the very rich mythologies that we have, in our various cultures. We've looked at things like hags or things like Rakshasa or Oni, and we've really been like, how can we dig into that source mythology and really bring it out in a way that is, fun. The Oni has an ability where it hits with its club and it makes this massive peal of thunder, but they also have an ability where they're afraid of beans because that's a core part of their mythology. They're scared of them.
I didn't know that before that.
Yeah, and getting those out into the thing, whether that's the dragons, the hags are incredibly creepy in the remaster.
Yeah, a few of them are. They're a little bit out there, even for me, and yeah, they're out there. I really like what the remaster has brought forth and how things have changed. I'm very curious to see how alignment affects things or lack of alignment affects things in the future, like the champion roles that I haven't seen yet, that most of you probably have already seen, and how they're going to affect things with divinity in the future, holy and unholy, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, we've really been able to lean into a thing that was part of our system in the legacy game, but we've really been able to open up now, which is edicts and anathema. So those are advisements about what are normal things that you strive for, and what are things that you might find against your personal moral code. And we can get a little more nuanced than simply good or evil, and we can ascribe those to deities. We can also ascribe them to a lot of things. Ancestries now, instead of saying it's an upcoming ancestry that I'm really excited about in the Tiancha character guide, is the Tanuki. They're based on Japanese mythology. They're just fun-loving pranksters, and so instead of having them be simply chaotic, they might have things like play jokes on people of a higher standing than you, because they're all about being underdogs. So we can get a little more nuance there, and you have things like the champion causes that might always be holy, and you have the ones that might, like redemption, which is usually good, and you have the other ones that could kind of manifest in an evil way or a good way, depending on how you take it. So it really brings up a lot more sort of nuance for still doing that holy unholy classic war of good and evil, but kind of in a more what's the way that fits with your character.
Anything else?
No, we are all super excited to be here. There's a lot of good stuff, and I hope you enjoy the con.
Oh, I definitely have. I started my day with Starfinder 2E, so.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good. All right, thank you.
All right, take care.